On March 14, 2009, a woman named Patricia Hendricks walked into the East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida. She carried with her a small disposable camera containing 24 photographs. Her hands trembled as she placed it on the curator's desk. Every single photograph showed the same thing: a doll, Robert, the doll. But in each image, he had moved, changed position, turned his head. In the final photograph, taken at 3:17 a.m. in a hotel room 300 miles away, Robert was no longer in his museum case. He was sitting on the edge of her bed. Patricia Hendricks disappeared 6 days later. Her camera was returned to the museum by the Fort Myers Police Department with a note that simply read, "Evidence in open investigation." Tonight, we're going to tell you about 5 cursed dolls that didn't just frighten their owners. They ruined them, destroyed their lives, and in some cases, ended them. These are not children's toys. They never were. In 1938, a girl named Okiku died of fever in northern Japan. She was 7 years old. Before her death, her older brother Ekichi had bought her a doll at a festival in Sapporo. A traditional Okiku doll dressed in a kimono with shoulder-length black hair. The girl loved it, carried it everywhere. When she died, her family placed the doll in the household altar to honor her memory. 2 weeks after the funeral, Okiku's mother noticed something impossible. The doll's hair had grown, not by much, perhaps a centimeter, but it had definitely grown. She said nothing, convinced herself it was grief playing tricks on her mind. But the hair kept growing. Within 3 months, it reached the doll's waist. The family brought the doll to Manenji Temple in Iwamizawa, where it remains to this day. The priests there have cut the doll's hair multiple times over the decades. It always grows back, always in the same way: black, human, real. In 1982, a sample was sent to a laboratory in Tokyo for analysis. The technician who examined it under microscope was named Hiroshi Yamada. His report, filed on November 3rd, contained only 2 sentences. "This is human hair. Female child, approximately 6 to 8 years old." Yamada resigned from the laboratory the following week. When interviewed years later, he would only say that while examining the sample, he heard a girl's voice whisper in his ear, "I'm cold. The doll remains at Manenji Temple. Its hair continues to grow." And every caretaker assigned to maintain it has reported the same dream. A young girl standing in snow, asking them to brush her hair. They always wake with strands of black hair on their pillows. In 1945, a British woman named Anna Walker purchased a doll from a street vendor in New Orleans. The vendor was an elderly black woman who warned her, "This doll ain't for children. This doll listens." Anna dismissed the warning as salesmanship and brought the doll back to her home in Liverpool. She named it Joliet. The doll was unusual: porcelain face, Victorian dress. But its eyes were wrong, too dark, too aware. Anna kept Joliet in her bedroom on the mantel above the fireplace. Within days, things began to happen. Objects moved, doors opened on their own. But worse than the phenomena were the sounds. At night, Anna heard breathing that wasn't her own, soft footsteps on the floorboards, and worst of all, a child's voice singing nursery rhymes that hadn't been sung in over a century. Anna tried to dispose of Joliet multiple times. She left it in an alley. It appeared back on her mantel the next morning. She threw it in the Mersey River. It was sitting in her kitchen 3 days later, still dripping with river water. In 1952, Anna Walker was admitted to Rainhill Psychiatric Hospital. The doctors noted that she spoke constantly about a doll that wanted her to do terrible things. She died there in 1959. The cause of death was listed as suicide. She was found in her locked room, strangled with a ribbon. A Victorian ribbon, the same ribbon that had been tied around Joliet's neck. After Anna's death, the doll was placed in storage with her other belongings. It was acquired by a private collector in 1967. That collector, Thomas Brennan, owned Joliet for exactly 9 days before his house burned down. He survived, but in every photograph taken of the fire, visible in a second-story window, there is a silhouette, small, child-sized, watching. Joliet's current whereabouts are unknown, but twice a year someone posts an advertisement in Liverpool, classifieds trying to sell a Victorian porcelain doll. The address is always different. The description is always the same. Must go immediately. Will not say why. In 1972, a man named Kerry Walton was visiting his childhood home in Wagga Wagga, Australia. Beneath the house, in the crawl space, he found something that made his blood turn cold. A doll, hand-carved from wood, approximately 2 feet tall. It was old, very old, and it was surrounded by the skeletal remains of what appeared to be small animals, rats, birds, a cat. Kerry brought the doll home against every instinct, screaming at him not to. He named it Letta, short for "Letta me out," because that's what he swore he heard whispered in the crawl space when he first picked it up. Let me out. The doll's presence changed Kerry's home immediately. His dogs would not enter rooms where Letta was kept. They would bark at it from doorways, hackles raised, teeth bared. Visitors reported feeling nauseous around it, watched. Some claimed they saw the doll's expression change, saw its wooden fingers flex. In 1982, Kerry loaned Letta to a museum for exhibition. Every night during its display, security cameras captured something disturbing. Letta would move, not much, just slightly, a few inches each night, always toward the exit, always facing the camera. On the 4th night, the museum director received a phone call at 3 a.m. Heavy breathing, then a child's voice, thick with an accent no one could identify. Take me back to Kerry. The number that called was the museum's own phone, from inside the locked exhibition room, where Letta was alone. Kerry still owns Letta today. He keeps it in a glass case in his home, but the case is never locked. When asked why, Kerry's face goes pale. He always gives the same answer. Because if I lock it, I hear scratching on the glass all night, and I know if I don't let it out when it wants, something worse will happen. Something much worse. The Quesnel Museum in British Columbia houses one of the most documented haunted dolls in North America. Her name is Mandy. She was donated to the museum in 1991 by a woman who wished to remain anonymous. The donation came with a letter, single page, handwritten. It read, "I can't keep this anymore. Every night I hear a baby crying in my basement. When I go down, it stops. But I see her, this doll, and I swear to God, I see her eyes move. I see her chest rise and fall like she's breathing. Please take her, please. I'm afraid of what she wants." Mandy is a porcelain doll from approximately 1910 to 1920. She wears a stained christening gown. Her face is cracked. One eye is missing, leaving a hollow socket that seems to follow visitors as they move past her display case. But it's not the missing eye that disturbs people most. It's the window. Staff at the Quesnel Museum have reported consistent phenomena since Mandy arrived. Electronics malfunction in her presence. Cameras drain instantly. Recording devices capture voices that weren't there during filming. Footsteps, crying, and always always the sound of a music box playing a lullaby no one can identify. In 2003, a paranormal investigation team spent the night in the museum. At 2:47 a.m., their thermal camera detected a heat signature next to Mandy's case. Small, child-shaped. But when they turned on the lights, nothing was there, except for one detail. Mandy's remaining eye had changed position. It was no longer looking straight ahead. It was looking directly at the camera. The team left and never returned. The museum curator, Ruth Stubbs, maintained detailed logs of incidents involving Mandy until her retirement in 2018. Her final entry, dated October 30th, read, "I don't know what this doll is, but it's not just a doll. I've worked here for 32 years, and I've never been afraid of an object until Mandy. She wants something. And I think she's getting angrier that we won't give it to her." Mandy remains on display, and every night after the museum closes, security cameras capture the same thing: the shadow of a small child standing in front of her case, watching, waiting. In 1896, a boy named Robert Eugene Otto was given a doll by his family's Bahamian servant. Some say the servant practiced black magic. Others say she was mistreated by the family and cursed the doll as revenge. Whatever the truth, from the moment young Robert received the doll, something was wrong. He named it Robert after himself. The doll was 3 feet tall, stuffed with wood wool, with button eyes and a disturbing, knowing expression. Robert the boy claimed the doll was alive, that it spoke to him, moved on its own. His parents dismissed this as imagination until they began hearing it themselves, giggling in Robert's room when the boy was downstairs, footsteps in the attic, and worse. Neighbors reported seeing the doll move from window to window in the Otto house, watching the street below, watching them. Objects in the home were destroyed, furniture overturned. When confronted, young Robert would scream, "I didn't do it. Robert did it. The doll did it." Robert Eugene Otto kept the doll his entire life. Even as an adult, he treated it like a living companion, gave it its own room, its own chair at the dinner table. When Otto died in 1974, the house was sold. The new owners found Robert in the attic. They gave it to their 10-year-old daughter. She lasted one night. Her screams woke the family at 3 a.m. They found her huddled in the corner of her room, pointing at the doll and shrieking, "It wanted to kill me. It tried to kill me." The doll now resides at the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West. And this is where the true horror of Robert becomes documented. Visitors must ask Robert's permission before taking his photograph. Those who don't report immediate misfortune, car accidents, house fires, illnesses, deaths. The museum receives letters constantly, apology letters, people begging Robert's forgiveness, pleading for their bad luck to stop. In 2015, a tourist named David Sloan photographed Robert without permission. He laughed at the warning, called it superstition. 3 weeks later, Sloan's wife filed for divorce. He lost his job. His house was burglarized, and in the burglar's statement to police, there was one disturbing detail. "I swear I saw a doll in the house watching me. Not a regular doll. Something wrong. Something evil. I had to get out." David Sloan wrote an apology letter to Robert. It's on file at the museum. The final line reads, "I don't know what you are, but I'm sorry. Please leave me alone. Please." His wife dropped the divorce proceedings 2 days after the museum received his letter. But Sloan still wakes up sometimes, in the dead hours of night, and swears he sees a small figure standing at the foot of his bed. 3 feet tall, button eyes gleaming in the darkness, watching him, always watching. These 5 dolls are not alone. There are others, hundreds of them, scattered across the world in private collections, museums, attics, basements. Some are documented, most are not. And every single one of them is waiting. But there's one doll we haven't talked about yet, one that makes Robert look harmless. It's called Annabelle. And unlike the others, Annabelle didn't just ruin lives. She tried to take them. In our next investigation, we'll explore the demon that lives inside Raggedy Ann, and why the Warrens locked her away in a case that must never, ever be opened. Because the last person who touched Annabelle didn't just have bad luck, he died. And witnesses say in his final moments, he was laughing. Not his laugh, hers. Until then, remember this. If you own an old doll and you hear